Everyone is talking about a Hamilton in crisis with Ferrari, but is it really so? Or behind the initial difficulties, is there a deeper project that goes beyond this season and that could explode in 2026? In today's video, we are going to analyze the statements of Lewis Hamilton. We are going to look at the statements of Juan Pablo Montoya as well. We are going to see how Leclerc can make a difference. In Austria, the technical behavior of the rear tires, and also Toto Wolff's expectations about Mercedes in Austria. Before we start, please leave a like to support the videos here on the channel. And now let's get started right away. Lewis Hamilton has entered the world of Ferrari on tiptoe, but with a huge specific weight. 7 global publishers, a career built on methods and structures completely different from those of Maranello. After 12 years at Mercedes, and even before at McLaren, Lewis finds himself in a new environment with a different culture, approach, and even work pace. And this, anyone who knows a bit about Formula 1 knows that it can't work right away. But be careful, this is not the story of a failure, it's the story of an adaptation. Hamilton, as he has said many times, came to Ferrari with the intention of making a difference. But carrying an entire philosophy like the Mercedes style, based on efficiency, advanced simulations, and a pyramidal structure, is not simple. And the first hurdle was precisely to get 2 completely different worlds to communicate. Toto Wolff clearly said Lewis is a British boy thrown into a completely new reality. Indeed, he's not wrong. Maranello is not Brackley. At Ferrari, there's still a more artisanal, more instinctive, and less standardized soul. Yet it's precisely from this cultural clash that the first signs of growth are emerging. This is where the crucial point comes in, because Hamilton is not just a driver to put in the car and go. He is one who speaks, analyzes, proposes. He did it in Mercedes, he did it also in Imola, he did it in front of the cameras, openly asking, do we already have to think about 2026? The real question is, does Ferrari really listen to him? The answer, as far as we know, is in part. Some suggestions, like the working method between simulator and track, have been accepted, others not, but not out of bad faith. Simply, Ferrari has its own way of doing things, and changing course requires time and trust. Exactly as happened in the times of Schumacher and Todd E. It took them 5 years to return to success. Another interesting point is the comparison with Leclerc-Charles, who grew up in the technical suffering of Ferrari. For him, it's normal to fight for the podium, but not for the title. For Lewis, no, and this greatly impacts the way the two experience the development of the car. Leclerc is used to managing, Hamilton wants to overturn, and this, if well managed, could become a lethal weapon for Ferrari. Whoever thought that Hamilton would have transformed Ferrari with a magic wand was mistaken. It doesn't work like that, he knew it too, but be careful. This does not mean that his contribution is useless. On the contrary, some of the changes in internal processes, in feedback management, and even in the team's mindset already bear his mark. Not everything is visible from the outside, but those who work on the track say that his impact is tangible. Only in a complicated season like 2025, the results are not immediately visible. So no, there is no Hamilton case. There is a Ferrari that, after years of attempts, is trying to make an additional cultural step that has always held it back so far. And perhaps in 2026, Hamilton could be the right man at the right time. And the Austrian Grand Prix could be the watershed of this year's Ferrari season. In fact, after months of chasing, frustration, and unfulfilled promises, Maranello is going all in. But the only real asset they can count on is named Charles Leclerc. And it's not the first time it's up to him to save the day. The Red Bull Ring is enemy territory. It's a short, very fast track, and above all, owned by the team that has been world champion for years. But paradoxically, it's also one of the few tracks where Leclerc has always made a difference, even when the car was a disaster. We remember in 2019, the rough body-to-body with Verstappen, in 2020, a second place with the disastrous SF1000, and in 2022, the most beautiful victory of his career. 3 overtakes on Max, all on track. Stuff that no other driver, not even Hamilton, managed to do in that Austrian stronghold. Yet today, the situation is complicated. The SF25 project is not working and the updates are coming late. And not because they have been studied for a long time, but because there has been a desperate attempt to remedy a wrong setting from the beginning. The new fund, expected in Austria, will not work miracles, it only serves to limit the damage. The truth is that few in Ferrari admit in front of the microphones is simple: this car cannot fight for the victory. And the comparison with McLaren, Red Bull, and even Mercedes has become unsustainable. So all that remains is to cling to the talent of Charles, who is one of the few who can make a difference even when the means does not support him. Not only is he fast, he's precise in braking, courageous in overtaking, and fierce in hand-to-hand combat. We can say that Austria is his hunting ground. And at a time when Ferrari has no more excuses, he is the only one who can come up with something. Because the Red Bull Ring is also a track where you can build your result if you have the guts. And we have to be objective. A track where you can make a difference is definitely Austria, where there are many overtaking points. And where Ferrari can hope with the new floor to limit the damage and try to be the second force behind McLaren. And if we want, those who have more feeling with the rear can have an advantage in Austria. For this reason, Leclerc could be favored to fight for the podium even more than Hamilton within Ferrari. But we also need to talk about the statements of Juan Pablo Montoya, who has taken a stand on the situation of Norris. Montoya doesn't mince words. Norris either redeems himself or sinks. Austria will not just be another Grand Prix for some drivers, it will be a psychological crossroads. And if on one hand Verstappen returns home to restart his chase, on the other hand Lando Norris risks paying a very high price, more mental than sporting. A year ago, right here in Austria, Norris and Verstappen ended up colliding. A tough maneuver between two former friends who became real rivals. The result was Lando out and Verstappen was spared. And that's why Russell won. Since then, their relationship has been strained. And now, Norris returns to one of those tracks with the weight of a disastrous Canada on his shoulders. A race ending that left its mark. We saw the contact with Piastri, a 0 from Norris that weighed heavily, wasted points, and increasing tension. In McLaren, the timing couldn't be worse. And Montoya doesn't mince his words. According to him, Norris is at the crossroads. If he doesn't redeem himself between Austria and Silverstone, McLaren risks losing him mentally. And these are heavy words, but realistic, because Lando is no longer a rookie, he is a designated leader. But to truly be one, he must withstand the pressure. And the calendar waits for no one. As if that wasn't enough, in Austria, Lando will also have to skip free practice, one to give his seat to Alex Dunn, a young promise of Formula 2. Less time on the track, more pressure over and over, the margin for error becomes even thinner. And then there's Verstappen, who made a rare mistake in Canada, but Montoya defends him. Red Bull is not as bad as many believe. It's a difficult car to drive, but perfect for Max. According to the Colombian, the Red Bull Ring will be the ideal track to relaunch.
Verstappen turns.
Long measured traction, descent, and compression. It's a track that enhances his style. And for Max, who has already proven to be lethal at the right moments, this will be one of the key races to regain control of the World Championship. And here's the point, it's not just about setup, updates, or mechanical grip. In Austria, it's a mental game. Norris has to prove he's not fragile. Verstappen has to erase Canada and reclaim his dominant role. And McLaren can't afford another setback after coming close to the top. Montoya knows it. When a driver starts to give in mentally, even the best car becomes a problem. And in Woking, they know well what it means to lose the trust of their leading talent. That's why Austria and Silverstone will be 2 weekends without a safety net. Between strategic choices, internal pressure, and duels to the limit, we could witness the moment when the World Championship changes direction again. But will Norris be able to react, or will Verstappen return to dominate the World Championship? Surely Norris must aim for victory in Austria. This is to catch up with his teammates in the championship and to not let Verstappen freely reclaim the championship. Because Max said it, he believes in it. In the World Championship, the season is still long. There are more than 10 races left, and Red Bull will do everything to give Max a competitive car. To fight from here until the end of the World Championship, Red Bull doesn't have high expectations for next year, they have more for this year. And so they will slightly sacrifice 2026 to favor Max in 2025. So be careful, because Norris is playing his chances to fight for the World Championship in the next 2 races. The mental role will have a greater impact than the position on the track, because we know how mentally fragile Lando is. Having said that, let's see which rookies will debut in free practice, one in Austria. For 2 young talents, it will be the day of reckoning. Dino Beganovic and Alex Dunn will climb for the first time, or almost, on a Formula 1 single-seater in an official weekend. And the expectations are very high. As provided by the Fédération Internationale de l'Automobile regulations, each team is obliged to test at least twice in the season. A rookie with less than 2 GPs under his belt. And Ferrari, for this second occasion, has decided to entrust the SF25 to Dino Beganovic. The Swede from the academy had already debuted in Bahrain, but this time he will take the wheel directly in place of Charles Leclerc in the free practice, one in Austria. A smart move, because there is no sprint race, it's a more relaxed weekend and the track is already well known by many drivers. It's the ideal context to put it to the test. Dino Beganovic is not a new name for the more attentive fans. Born in 2004, he currently races in Formula 2 with high tech and is one of the most promising prospects of the Ferrari Driver Academy. After years of growth in the lower formulas, this second chance with Ferrari in an official weekend is the real test. For now, the goal is clear: rack up miles, gather data for the team, and show a professional approach. But between the lines, everyone wants to see if he really has the potential for a future in Formula 1. While on the other side of the pit, the McLaren will be handled by Alexander Dunn, leader of Formula 2 and the first great Irish hope in Formula 1 since 1982. Dunn will climb onto the MCL 39 for the first time in place of Lando Norris. And for him too, the program, it's clear, is very similar to that of Beganovic. He has already done a test with older cars, including a session at Zandvoort, but here it will be different. Andrea Stella has emphasized how crucial this opportunity is. Getting Dunn in the car will help us understand his potential and give us valuable feedback for the setup. In an increasingly crowded championship, the free practice, one is on. A great opportunity to showcase, to show their potential and try to be picked up by the teams to then, in the future, become official drivers. So pay attention also to the choice at McLaren to put Dunn in place of Norris. This means that Piastri is currently considered the team's first driver. But we also have to see how Mercedes is set up for this weekend in Austria. And after months spent in the shadow of McLaren and Red Bull, the victory in Canada has sparked a flame. Mercedes is back, but in Austria, on Red Bull's home circuit, the V16 will have to confirm everything. Is it just an illusion or the beginning of a real comeback? Mercedes' season didn't start off too badly, but not well either. The V16 has shown potential, yes, but without consistency. After Imola and Barcelona, the atmosphere had become heavy. Then the twist in Canada, Russell triumphs and breaks the German teams fast. It's the first victory of 2025 and the last one dated back to Vegas 2024-24. And now in Brackley they start talking about a relaunch, but with caution. The turning point was the technical update that made the difference. The new rear suspension with push rod scheme introduced. The first modification at Imola was tested and then temporarily set aside, and it came back in Canada and it worked. In Austria, it will be the real test. The Red Bull ring has very different curves, more mileage, less stop and go. And if the V16 performs well here too, then Mercedes can really talk about stable progress. Given that Wolff, as always, keeps a low profile. We can't expect the Montreal level every weekend, he said. But then he added that the V16 has the potential to compete in Styria as well. And Wolff didn't miss the opportunity to talk about Kimi Antonelli. If he drives a Mercedes, it's because he has everything to become a world champion. A clear message: the future of the team is already at home, and the Austrian Grand Prix will be a delicate challenge for Mercedes. Precedes. The asphalt is more abrasive than in Canada, the curves load the tires differently, and temperature management will be crucial. McLaren starts ahead, Red Bull wants redemption, and Ferrari is a bit of an unknown, but the momentum is on Brackley's side. The goal is clear: to take advantage of every opportunity to confirm that Canada was not a flash in the pan. And it's also important to gain ground in the standings, both drivers and constructors, even against Ferrari and Red Bull. Certainly, tire management will be more complex compared to Canada. There is less natural grip and more lateral stress. And in this, McLaren has the upper hand. Red Bull also plays at home and has always achieved good results in Austria, historically speaking. But the two real contenders are Mercedes and Ferrari, because both need to try to show something more. Mercedes has already shown it in Canada and needs to try to confirm it in Austria. Ferrari, significant updates are expected, so a considerable step forward is also expected, and therefore we could also expect a challenge between Russell and Leclerc. But let's look at the issue of tire overheating, because it will be crucial. Pirelli has already taken precautions. The selection of compounds is the same as last year's C3, C4, and C5. But the key to the weekend will not be so much wear and tear as thermal management, with intense braking, abrupt restarts, and long stretches at full throttle. The rear tires risk going out of window in an instant, and when that happens, performance drops, or worse, blisters form. But let's take a step back. In 2025, we return to the classic format: 3 free trials, qualifying on Saturday and race on Sunday. No sprint, finally. And here comes the first trap. The Red Bull ring is not particularly abrasive, but the asphalt is old and rough and generates a lot of heat. Making things worse is the layout with few curves, but a lot of power required on exit. The result, a real torture for the rear axle. Pirelli is clear. In Austria, the degradation is mainly thermal. There are no great lateral forces, but it's the internal temperatures of the tire that dominate. The team's goal will be to keep the tires within the optimal usage window. Easy to say, very difficult to do. When the tire overheats too much, it can develop surface porosity. This leads to the infamous blistering small air or steam bubbles that form between the tread and the carcass, separating the layers of the tire. The result? Craters, holes, and a significant loss of grip. We know that blistering is unforgiving. Last year, the race was one of the most straightforward. Strategically speaking, all the drivers started with the medium, except for Joe, who opted for the hard and started from the pit lane. Most chose 2 stops, while some attempted 3 or more pit stops. Like Verstappen, not Leclerc did it for specific situations, not for planned strategy. Verstappen. In the end, he fitted the softs to take the fastest laps, succeeding, while Ricciardo completed a good 34 laps with the hards. A fact that highlights how thermal management, more than pure wear, is the real limiting factor. 10 turns, less than a minute to complete a qualifying lap. The Red Bull Ring is the shortest circuit in terms of lap time and second to Spa in terms of elevation change. There are 3 drag reduction system zones. The track always offers many overtakes and exciting battles. The first sector is all uphill, the second is downhill, and the third is a high-speed technical sector. The typical weather variability of Styria adds further unpredictability. Even with 30 degrees on the asphalt, a single cloud can change everything. And let's be clear, the C6 compound, which was supposed to be the revolution of 2025, has generated more doubts than certainties. It was supposed to be an extreme option for the teams to give more aggression, more strategy, and also more spectacle. Instead, Pirelli has confirmed that it will be modified for 2026 because it is a tire designed for less stressful tracks like Monaco. But the C6 brought to Canada and also to Imola did not give the expected results. In fact, we saw more teams that made the time with medium tire. That is, the C5 rather than using a C6 that you have to manage too much in the qualifying lap when we don't want to hear about management. And Mario Isola admitted the C6 has a higher peak of grip, but the C5 gives more confidence and consistency. A revision is needed. They want at least a half-second difference between C6 and C5, the very last thing for 2026. There's talk of Bottas and Perez in Cadillac, even though Cadillac will look for a younger driver and one with experience. With experience, it will be either Bottas or Perez, the other could even be Drugovich. So we'll see how the driver market situation will also evolve in the upcoming races. As of today, these are just rumors and there's nothing official yet. Let me know in the comments your opinion on all the topics we've covered in the video. Who do you see as the favorite in Austria? As always, I remind you to leave a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any videos. I'll leave you with some related videos. Here from Rasaduto, we'll see you in the next video.